Government officials insist that this is an isolated incident. We will continue to inform as this story unfolds.
You ever feel like you're drowning? Not in water, in information. It comes at you from every direction. The screens, the feeds, the endless scroll of humanity's worst moments, all queued up and ready for consumption. You try to keep your head above water, try to make sense of it all, but the current just keeps getting stronger. We've been talking about the files that recently surfaced. Millions of pages. Names you recognize, faces you know. Everyone's got an angle, everyone's asking questions, and the truth gets buried under layers of speculation and confusion. You want answers? Good luck finding them in that avalanche of data. Then there's the situation in Iran. A new conflict, a war we were told wasn't gonna happen. Blood and politics mixing like they always do. It's on every channel. Every headline, and by tomorrow, it'll be replaced by something equally catastrophic. We live in an age where the end of the world happens at least 3 times a week. It's exhausting. It's designed to be exhausting. This is information overload. This is the modern condition. We're drowning in data, but starving for meaning. Everyone's got the facts, but nobody's got the truth. Or maybe the truth is that there isn't one anymore. Just infinite perspectives, infinite angles, infinite noise. Today we're talking about that noise. These days the world doesn't let you be ignorant. It forces the noise down your throat whether you want it or not. We're talking about what happens when you're bombarded with more information than your brain can process. We're talking about how to survive in a world that's determined to bury you under its own complexity. They say ignorance is bliss. Maybe they're right. Welcome to the Dancing Toaster. Because sometimes the only sane response to a world going crazy is to dance.
Oh, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Dancing Toaster. This is Pastor Nelly, and this is the place where we wrestle with the intersection of faith and the unexplained. Today, we're doing something a little bit different. I'm calling it Toaster Talk. You guys know that my show is heavily scripted. That's not something I try to hide. A lot of time and research goes into things I share with you guys, as well as the presentation of that information. Today, I have some things I want to talk about and go off script. Off the cuff, I'd say today I'm going to let my hair down, but I don't have any. I do have points I want to touch on, and I've listed them out, and I'm announcing I'm done. But before you shed any tears, don't worry. We still got a lot of bread left to toast. The show is not ending, but certain things in my life are ending and changing. But before we get into any of that, I still need to thank my toasties. To my patrons on Patreon and to the many that give through buymeacoffee.com, I can't thank you enough. The show must go on, especially for those of you who have been so loving, so patient, and so supportive of the work. If you're not a toasty, consider joining. If you can, $5 a month, get you early access, direct access to me, access to exclusives, ad-free listening, that kind of stuff. If not that, then maybe consider throwing me a few shekels on buymeacoffee.com/The Dancing Toaster. Every little bit helps, and right now, it's going back into the show. Hardware, software, resources, tons of stuff to make it better. Trying to compete in a very loud world is a huge challenge, even in a space as niche as this one. Again, thank you, everybody that helped me to do that in 2025, other than our world totally going up in flames. 2026 has been great so far. So you're thinking, what is he done with? He said he's done. Done with what? Well, done with a lot of things. A lot of things that are going to get me in trouble today with all kinds of folks. I'm done with Republicans. I'm done with Donald Trump. I'm done with Democrats. Never was one. I still feel many of their positions to be abhorrent, but one of the reasons I'm done with my side is anytime they could actually fix something, they choose to leave it broken. You know why? I saw a meme this week that summed it up perfectly. You remember Tom and Jerry? I grew up watching that silly cat and mouse chase each other, and you want to know why Tom never caught Jerry? Well, because if he did, the show would be over. I'm done with political theater. That's what modern Western politics has become. Many of you know, or maybe you don't, I don't know if I've ever shared this before, but I love professional wrestling. I hate that modern politics is exactly like professional wrestling. Professional wrestling is entertaining precisely because everyone knows it's staged. Notice I didn't say fake, I said staged, because those people really do put their bodies on the line, but it is staged. You go to a match, you suspend your disbelief, you get invested in the drama and the spectacle, and you walk out having a good time. Everyone involved understands the unspoken contract. This is athletic theater. This is storytelling. It's a performance art. But modern politics has become professional wrestling without the honesty. The same choreographed narratives, the same larger-than-life characters, the same predetermined outcomes designed to keep you emotionally invested and coming back for more, except now it's dressed up as democracy and civic responsibility. Politicians play their assigned roles, the heroic protagonist, the villainous opponent, the mysterious wild card. They deliver their lines, they strike their poses, they generate their feuds, and the media amplifies it all with the breathless excitement of an announcer in the ring. The difference is that in wrestling, you're allowed to enjoy the artifice. In politics, you're supposed to pretend it's real while everyone involved knows otherwise. What made wrestling bearable? Well, the winking acknowledgement that, again, it's all performance. That's precisely what's missing from our political theater. We're trapped watching a show where the performers insist it matters, where the spectacle has real consequences, where we're supposed to care deeply about drama that's just as scripted as anything you'd see on a pay-per-view. At least that's what they used to call wrestling events. The tragedy is that wrestling fans would probably be happier voters if our politicians just admitted they were entertainers. At least then we could enjoy the show without pretending we're watching something meaningful. I'm done pretending. I'm done pretending that either side politically has my best interests at heart, or that they ever did, at least in my lifetime. I'm pushing 40 now. It's right around the corner. I'm done pretending that either side truly cares about God or about Christ and His righteousness. I'm done being the type of conservative Christian that can be led around by a leash. George Carlin famously said, "There's a big club and you and I, well, we ain't in it." Yeah, they may throw around Christian words and Christian causes, but it's to emotionally manipulate well-meaning Bible-believing individuals such as you and I. Our vice president is really good at doing this. Yeah, the one who married a Hindu, he was handpicked by Peter Thiel. We might talk about that later. Who knows? This guy was in the files, and he is at the top of every one of my dystopian future checklists. Thiel, not necessarily Vance, we'll see about that, but Peter Thiel for sure. He's helping to engineer every system needed that fits my eschatological viewpoints. He even had the nerve to have a series of talks on the Antichrist. They're all mocking us at this point. Trump has helped secure deals with these godless tech giants that seek to control every aspect of human life. For politicians, Christian causes are tools, not convictions. They're leveraged when useful, abandoned when inconvenient. And the people doing this, the ones who understand the machinery well enough to weaponize faith itself, well, they're laughing. They know exactly what they're doing. It's mockery dressed up as leadership. For decades, many conservative Christians accepted the deal, align with a political party that pays lip service to your values, and in return, get some influence on policy. But the deal has become very transparent of late. I fear what has been actually happening is that we've been trading actual spiritual conviction for political access, and the people offering that deal never intended to deliver anything real. They needed our votes, our donations, our moral authority. Once they had those, the pretense could drop. Trump securing deals with tech companies that represent everything about surveillance capitalism and human control. None of the religious rhetoric was ever sincere. It's just business as usual, dressed up in borrowed language. You can't unsee it once you see it. Honestly, Charlie changed my mind on a lot of things. He gave me hope. Charlie Kirk, that is. But the veil has been pulled back. I'm done. I can't participate in the same way because I'm forced to acknowledge the mechanism. Again, George Carlin was right about the club, and the people inside it are very comfortable using religious language as a tool while having no actual investment in religious truth. They're betting that by the time conservative Christians figure out they've been manipulated, they'll be too invested to walk away. Sunk cost fallacy at its finest. Well, I'm walking away. Am I telling you to walk away? Am I telling you have to be done? No, that's up to you. You're free thinkers if you're listening to the show. Hint, hint, wink, wink. I'm choosing to focus on things that I can control. My marriage, my church, and my podcast. The one I get to share with you, and I'm grateful for that. What do you do with politics, or what you do with politics, is between you and the Lord, but I have to publicly apologize because after Charlie Kirk was eliminated, I was feeling real inspired and patriotic. I do care deeply about my country, as flawed as she is, but she is co-opted. She is compromised, and I can't ignore that anymore. I will pray for her well-being, I will proclaim truth to all who will listen, and I will call out evil even when it's being done by my quote-unquote side. All the I am Charlie stuff, it hit me in the feels, man, I'll admit, for weeks, months. I don't regret that episode that I did on Charlie Kirk and his assassination. I don't regret it in the slightest, nor the feelings that created it, that followed afterwards. I do think he was incredible. I do think he was sincere. And his murder was a huge loss for this country and this world. My feelings were real. That episode was real. It was sincere. That's why I'm not going to remove it or anything. I do love my country, even when I hate what it's done or what it's doing. And in that episode, it was how I felt at the time, but a lot has changed since then. A lot has been revealed, and let's be honest, a lot has been redacted as well. The more you dig into the details of Charlie's assassination even, the less it makes sense. Now, please don't think for a second I'm Team Candace Owens either. I believe she's actually a psyop. I don't even think she's a loon. Maybe she is, but I'm leaning towards psyop, at least right now. Check her track record and you'll see she's a grifter. Her compass has always been fame and money. She's brought up a bunch of very reasonable points, I hate to say, but because she sprinkles in things that are bat feces crazy, everything she says can be written off in the midst of many minds. I think that's the point. I think she is a form of controlled opposition, if I'm being frank. If you simply silence someone or ban them entirely, you create a martyr narrative. But if you elevate someone who says some true stuff mixed with increasingly unhinged crap, you accomplish something more insidious. You discredit the entire category of people asking critical questions. Candace Owens becomes the gatekeeper, the filter through which legitimate concerns get passed through a funhouse mirror until they emerge as conspiracy theater. Anyone who agrees with her on something reasonable can be dismissed as believing the crazy parts too. Anyone trying to raise serious questions can be associated with her brand of stupidity or sensationalism, whatever you want to call it. It's brilliant propaganda, actually, not because it's subtle, but because it works by inviting people to notice the inconsistencies while being unable to separate the signal from the noise. The Kirk situation is a perfect case study for this. The details don't add up, the timelines are off, certain facts don't align with official narratives. These are legitimate grounds for inquiry, I have discovered as time goes by, but when those inquiries get funneled through someone whose credibility is deliberately constructed to be questionable, well, the whole investigation becomes tainted. This is how controlled opposition operates. It's how it's always operated. It takes real questions, real concerns, then repackages them in a way that makes them impossible to discuss seriously. You end up in a position where you can't talk about the actual inconsistencies without being lumped in with the people promoting obviously false claims. The truth gets buried under silence, but under an the truth gets buried not under silence, but under an avalanche of semi-truths and deliberate distortions. This is exactly what the CIA did in the 60s. Back in 67, the CIA literally created the term conspiracy theorist. It was a deliberate psyop. It wasn't organic language, it was weaponized terminology designed to do exactly what we see now, delegitimize questioning of official narratives by associating it with unreliability or paranoia. The Warren Commission's official story about JFK's assassination was already falling apart by the mid-1960s. Serious people, journalists, academics, former intelligence officials were all asking legitimate questions about the inconsistencies in the official narrative, These weren't fringe figures, they were credible voices raising substantive critiques. The CIA recognized this as a problem. They couldn't suppress the questions outright without drawing more attention to themselves, so they needed a different approach. The solution was a linguistic one. They developed a memo, later declassified, instructing media assets and intelligence contacts to use the phrase conspiracy theorist as a pejorative label for anyone questioning the Warren Commission findings. From that day forward, the term itself became a weapon, not because it was accurate, but because it shifted the conversation from, "Are these legitimate questions?" to, "Why are these people so paranoid?" The label did the work that censorship couldn't hope to do. It created social and intellectual shame around asking uncomfortable questions. I'm not done being a conspiracy theorist, because they're betting 1,000, folks. What's brilliant about this strategy is that once the infrastructure was in place, it didn't require ongoing CIA management to function. The term took on a life of its own. Media outlets used it, academics used it, regular people internalized it as a marker of unreliability. Over time, it became self-perpetuating. You didn't need government agents pushing the narrative anymore. The culture itself had been programmed to dismiss certain categories of inquiry automatically. And this is where controlled opposition becomes the natural evolution of that original strategy. Once you've successfully delegitimized the very act of questioning through linguistic programming, the next step is to ensure that the people who question anyway are exactly the wrong people. People whose credibility is already compromised, whose claims are already mixed with nonsense, whose very existence discredits the entire category of dissent. Candace Owens has become the living embodiment of what a conspiracy theorist looks like in the public imagination, and because she's out there saying some true things mixed with some provably false and insane things, she validates the entire infrastructure of dismissal that was built back in '67 by the CIA. The system is remarkably elegant. Question the official story and you're automatically associated with unreliability. Try to ask serious questions and get filtered through gatekeepers whose job, whether intentionally or not, is to make your question seem nuts. What makes this particularly effective is that Owens has clearly shown the ability to identify real problems and articulate them compellingly at times. That's what gives her credibility with her audience. But then those reasonable observations are consistently paired with claims that range from exaggerated to completely detached from reality. It's a formula, probably 70% genuine critique, 30% absolute nonsense, mixed together so thoroughly that people can't extract one from the other. And because she has a platform, because she has followers, because she's part of the conversation, anyone raising similar concerns gets immediately associated with her entire package. The system is self-maintaining. The more reasonable points she makes, the more her unreasonable claims seem credible to her followers. The more outlandish she becomes, the more anyone asking similar questions seems like they're part of the same conspiracy ecosystem. This is the true purpose of controlled opposition, not to prevent dissent, but to control its shape. To ensure that the people asking uncomfortable questions are exactly the people whose questions can't be taken seriously. It's far more elegant than censorship because it uses the appearance of free speech to undermine the actual capacity for critical thinking. You're allowed to question the official narrative as long as you do it through a filter that renders your questions radioactive. And the tragedy is that somewhere in Owens' mountain of claims there might be kernels of truth, but they're so thoroughly mixed with poison that extracting them becomes nearly impossible. And I think that's the whole point, folks. Now, where do I sit with the Kirk situation? Did Tyler Robinson take out Charlie? Well, my friends, I don't know anymore. We definitely have a bunch of psycho trannies running around shooting people for sure, but did a poor sap in love with one commit that murder? Again, I don't know. Too much doesn't make sense, especially with the weapon, if we're just going to pull one example. He disassembled it, then climbed, then assembled it on the roof, then fired, then had time to disassemble it again because he clearly doesn't have it in one piece, leaping from the roof. But then when it was found in the woods, it was reassembled. And speaking of the footage of him on the roof, we have plenty of vague footage there and elsewhere that leaves plenty of room for more questions. Maybe he did it, maybe he didn't, but I don't like that you can't ask questions without being seen as disloyal, whether about the event itself or those that remain after the event. Crazy people like Candace make those who are genuinely asking questions look crazy too. Charlie was asking a lot of questions about certain things in his final days, I have realized, and it's interesting that Turning Point has removed some of those episodes containing those questions. Things that you're not allowed to ask questions about because merely doing so gets you labeled as, let's say, anti-Semitic. An anti-Semitic, if you catch my drift. Which is why there's something else that I'm done with, folks. I'm done running defense for Israel. And if we do ever truly have an America First president, I might consider voting for him, but since one doesn't exist, we'll keep sending $3.8 billion a year to our greatest ally while we get absolutely nothing in return. And I'm tired of pretending otherwise. Oh, but they're the only real democracy in the Middle East, I'm told. Is that why the same guy's been in charge for 16 years now? Netanyahu is just that loved, huh? Real name, Benjamin Milikowski. Folks, I'm done being emotionally and theologically manipulated to support a state, a political entity that has decided to use biblical language and symbolism to get whatever they want and get away with almost anything. I learned about the Lavon affair that took place back in '54. Israeli operatives conducted a false flag bombing campaign in Egypt targeting Western-owned civilian sites. The plan was to blame Egyptian groups in order to damage Egypt's relations with the U.S. and Britain. The operation failed and became a major political scandal inside Israel, not Mossad or Netanyahu, but Israeli military intelligence. Bad Israeli intelligence also sent us to Iraq in my lifetime because Mr. Saddam Hussein had them WMDs, except he didn't. We were lied to about why we went into Iraq. Or Iraq, however you want to say it. We were lied to by a Republican, by the way. A Republican who received plenty of money from a certain little country and one whose family has a vested interest in the oil industry. Oh, but trust them this time with Iran. For 2 decades they've been saying Iran had nuclear capabilities. Anytime they wanted to mess around with Iran, just claim they have nukes again and again and again. And look, I know that Iran was cooked. Their leader did suck. He was awful. He was evil. Islam is evil. But America made that mess over there in the first place, or certainly helped. Something else Charlie was pointing out before he was murdered. You can start with '53. The CIA orchestrated a coup in Iran, overthrowing Mohammad Mossadegh, a democratically elected prime minister who had the audacity to want to nationalize Iran's oil resources. We installed the Shah, a brutal autocrat who ruled with an iron fist and secret police. And for 26 years, we propped him up militarily, economically, politically. We armed him, we legitimized him. We told ourselves it was about containing communism, but really it was about controlling oil and maintaining American and Israeli geopolitical dominance throughout the Middle East. The Iranian Revolution in 1979 didn't happen in a vacuum. It happened because an entire generation of Iranians, really Persians, had grown up under American-backed authoritarian rule. The revolution was in many ways a direct response to what we had created and sustained. We installed the conditions for the anti-American sentiment that defines Persian politics to this day, and then we act shocked that Iran didn't love us. Go back for a sec to Iraq. We supported Saddam Hussein throughout the 1980s. We gave him weapons, we gave him intelligence, diplomatic cover, while he actively was at war with Iran. We were playing both sides, maintaining a balance of power that kept the region destabilized and dependent on American military support. When Saddam invaded Kuwait in 1990, suddenly he was the bad guy, and we had to go in and fix the mess we'd been enabling. We didn't fix it. We just created more chaos, more resentment, more radicalization. The Iraq War in 2003 destabilized the entire region further in ways that we're still dealing with today. It created a power vacuum that Iran filled. It created ungoverned spaces where ISIS emerged. It killed hundreds of thousands of people, displaced millions, and left infrastructure obliterated. And now, 20-plus years later, we're invading Iran again to address regional instability that we directly caused through decades of military intervention and proxy wars. We interfere, we create the blowback, we claim the blowback is unprovoked aggression, we invade to fix the problem. This creates more blowback, which creates the justification for the next intervention. It's a self-perpetuating cycle, and it's incredibly profitable for defense contractors and geopolitically useful for maintaining American-Israeli hegemony. But it requires a collective amnesia about our role in creating the conditions we're claiming to respond to. We topple their government, we supported their enemies, we sanctioned them economically, we threatened them militarily, and now, when they develop defensive capabilities or regional influence, we frame it as unprovoked aggression requiring American military response. The mess we're claiming to fix in Iran is substantially a mess we created. A mess born from decades of intervention designed to maintain control and access to resources for us and our greatest ally. And the solution being offered, more military intervention, more regime change rhetoric, more American military presence in the region is the exact same prescription that created the problem in the first place. It's insanity dressed up as strategy, and it requires believing that this time we have the right reasons, and somehow this time intervention will work differently than it has every other time. What's particularly maddening is that this historical context is available. It is not classified or redacted. It's not controversial among historians or foreign policy analysts, but it doesn't fit the narrative of either side that is wrought with warmongers, so it gets left out of the mainstream conversation. We're allowed to talk about Iranian aggression without being required to acknowledge that we created the conditions, the grievances, and the strategic incentives for that aggression. We're allowed to invoke national security without examining how our own interventions have consistently made America less secure, not more. And things get better for our politicians. Their wealth increases handsomely. Things get better for our greatest ally. They can afford to have children, buy houses, have health care because we send $3.8 billion a year. That is over $10 million a day, by the way. I got the figure. Hold on, let's see. The figure, approximately $10,410,959 a day for 365 days. That's how much it takes to get to $3.8 billion. You can't afford to live, partly because we keep sending all of our money all over the globe, and a big chunk of it goes to our greatest ally. And the people from my denomination, myself included, for a long time, well, we run defense. But doesn't the Bible say that if we bless Israel, God will bless us? Well, one, that is manipulation and misuse of a promise made to Abraham. Two, ask yourself, is America getting better or worse? Do you feel super blessed for sending your $10 million a day? I don't. I can't find work. That's one of the reasons the show exists, if you didn't know that. My church is really small. I'm trying to be bivocational, but my jobs keep getting shut down or outsourced to the Philippines or India. I don't have health care. I don't have health insurance. I can't afford health care. I can't afford my current home repairs. I'm being buried in taxes. And that money, if it's not going to teach underwater lesbian ballet in some backwater country, it's going to a country in the Middle East that I'm not allowed to criticize or even ask questions about. I'm tired. I'm done. I'm not looking for your sympathy, but I am venting. Some are getting really excited about me saying some of the things and noticing certain things, while others, no doubt, are very troubled, especially if they share my theological background or my denominational background. Many of you know that I'm a Calvary Chapel pastor, and, saying these things is professionally dangerous for me. It's dangerous to dissent and express independent thought, especially about our greatest ally. Many within my denomination are obsessed with the topic. I love Jews. I love Israel. I love them with Christ's love, and I love that land. I pray that they would repent of their apostasy and come to faith in the Messiah that they rejected and murdered. The one they know is spoken of in Isaiah 53. And they'll say, oh, that passage is talking about Israel. No, it isn't. It isn't talking about Israel. Isaiah 53 says, surely he took up our pain and bore our suffering, yet we considered him punished by God, stricken by him and afflicted. But he was pierced for our transgressions, he was crushed for our iniquities. The punishment that brought us peace was on him, and by his wounds we are healed. We all, like sheep, have gone astray. Each of us has turned to our own way, and the Lord has laid on him the iniquity of us all. Since when did Israel ever been punished for the iniquity of another? whenever God punished them in the Old Testament, it was because of their own spiritual harlotry, their adultery, worshiping Baal and Molech and other Canaanite deities. Charlie did start to notice and question certain things. Charlie rejected money from certain lobbying forces, and now Charlie is no longer with us, and we're not allowed to ask why. We're just supposed to accept the narrative being pumped out. Think of every assassination that has taken place on our soil in America, and ask yourself, which one were you told the truth about? I'll wait. Or have we consistently found out 60 or 70 years later that the official narrative was a lie? Charlie's death was monumental. We had the chance to do some incredible stuff. That sounds dark, but I'm just being frank. We had the chance to do many incredible things with the momentum that I thought was being created after his murder. But those that could have done something didn't. Yeah, the big old turning point event, and again, got the blood flowing. Oh man, this is going to be great. Big revival. But again, those that could have impacted any real lasting change, well, they didn't. And they have a convenient excuse now. Well, I've heard them say, well, if Candace would have kept her mouth shut, we could have kept all the conservatives united, guys. Oh, that big old mean Candace ruined it all for all of us. No, Candace wasn't the problem. The problem is so-called conservatives benefit from the broken system. They benefit greatly from particular foreign states that don't help our country, but currently give millions of dollars to dozens of our politicians, including the one in the White House. He's pulled out chairs for Mr. Beebe. Ask yourself, who else on the planet other than maybe his wife have you ever seen him pull a chair out for? What other ally of America gets that kind of treatment? I'm just asking questions. No, I'll say again, Candace was annoying. She is annoying, but she isn't the problem. It was a party that has the courts, the Senate, the House, the White House, and yet no one who was caught in the many fraud scandals exposed by Doge, exposed in Minnesota, no one has been held accountable for anything. We're being robbed blind, and it's pointed out by conservatives. Republicans say, oh, look at all the bad things the Democrats are doing. Then do something about it. And they do nothing. Oh, you got to keep us in office so that we can fix it next time. How about this time you do something? And now, even worse, no one in the Epstein files is being held accountable by our government or by the current administration. You want to know why? Well, it's because so many of them are implicated in the acts or in covering up those acts. I talked about many of them last week in that horrible episode, and no, my conservative brothers and sisters, Trump is not exonerated by the release, despite what the conservative talking heads have told you. He fought tooth and nail to prevent the release of those files. He and his administration have fought to keep individuals redacted in those files, and not the victims, folks, the perpetrators. My friends, I fear we lose the moral high ground as Christians if we call out evil on the other side, but not on our own. And I repent for my own hypocrisy, for the things I have overlooked so that my side could win. Trump has a lot to explain from those files and from his long history and, dare I say, friendship with Epstein. And before you think Biden or Harris would have been any better, don't freaking kid yourself, please. Again, this is not me saying, oh, Republicans bad, I should have voted for a Democrat. Heck no. Biden had them files and did nothing with them, so don't even. Spare me, please. And what about all the creepy evil crap his son Hunter was involved in that we knew about, that we saw on his son's laptop? You know, the one that they told you didn't exist? What did Biden do with that again? Oh, that's right. He pardoned his demon son so he couldn't be held accountable for some of the same things that are in those Epstein files. Friends, plenty of Republicans and Democrats were complicit in Epstein's evil operation, either participating or helping to cover it up. Even if you think Trump didn't do anything directly, tons of people around him, past and present, were heavily involved, from Alexander Acosta to Howard Lutnick. And we know it. We have proof now, and nothing is being done. And that's why I'm done. I'm still going to carry out Ephesians 5:11, take no part in the unfruitful works of darkness, but rather expose them. But what I must do is I must expose them honestly. Exposure means, well, when it's my quote-unquote side. And if you feel convicted by me saying that in any way, maybe it's just me, maybe I'm the only one that's turned a blind eye to my own side. But if it's not just me, maybe you need to repent today too. Now some of you are getting upset with me. No, don't you want the Democrats to win? No, I don't. But I'm also no longer going to stand with a monster and a crook in a party that uses my religion to emotionally manipulate me when it's convenient. Today we get so ingrained in our positions, ingrained with our tribe, whether it's our political party, our denomination, whatever the case may be, we'll defend them even when they're dead wrong. I'm done being that person. I don't want to be that person, and I don't want you to be that person either. Now that I have more information, it demands that I respond. Now, do I regret supporting people and parties before? No, and call it cope if you want, but I was doing the best I could with what I knew at the time. I'm human, I'm fallible, I'm not omniscient. With the information I had, given the alternatives being the disaster they were, I made the best choice I could. Would I make that choice again today? Absolutely not. Will I vote for J.D. Vance when the time inevitably comes? No, I don't trust him as far as I can throw him. I know that shocks some of you, but I've done some digging there too. Maybe it'll get its own episode, who knows, but this was no grassroots rise to support. He was a construction project. That sociopath Peter Thiel did not just simply support J.D. Vance. I think he built him, and I don't mean in a robot sense, although it did start in Silicon Valley, where mentorship is currency and proximity to billionaires is like oxygen. Vance entered Thiel's orbit after law school, not just as an employee, some may say as a protege. He was brought in close to powerful tech investors and given direct access to their money and their influence. That kind of opportunity doesn't just happen by chance. It happens because someone put you there on purpose. Millions flowed into super PACs and political organizations that cleared Vance's path to the Senate back in 2022. Targeted investments. I'm going to use a word I've been using a lot in the last 2 weeks in politics. Capital is leverage. By the time 2024 rolls around, Vance is no longer a long-shot author turned politician. He's a national figure with backing from some of the wealthiest figures in tech. Reports surfaced that Thiel and others in that billionaire network privately encouraged Donald Trump to choose Vance as his running mate. Doors open quietly when billionaires knock. Critics look at that sequence and do not see coincidence. They see choreography. Of course, there's no receipt, but influence does not need a receipt. Influence needs timing. It needs access. Capital deployed with precision, a strategic placement, years in the making, I think. A candidate shaped, financed, networked, and positioned until the right moment arrived. Power rarely announces itself as a transaction. It prefers to look like destiny, especially to religious conservatives. Fate. Providence. And Thiel co-founded Palantir, which screams dystopian nightmare if you don't know anything about it. In the world of Tolkien, the Palantiri were seeing stones. They were tools used by rulers, devices that let powerful men peer across vast distances, watch enemies, track movements, and shape events from behind the curtain. The stones did not just observe the world, they influenced it. Now imagine building a real-world company around that idea. Palantir Technologies was founded back in 2003 by Thiel and others. Its mission was to gather data, massive amounts of data, to pull information from governments, corporations, intelligence agencies, banks, law enforcement, immigration systems, military networks, and fuse it all together into one integrated map of human behavior. Financial records, phone metadata, travel logs, social networks, criminal histories, health data, patterns of association, all in one convenient location. He happens to work with another country too. I wonder which one. When you combine those streams, you do not just see isolated facts. You see networks, you see relationships, you see who talks to whom, who moves where, who spends what, who knows who. My friends, this is dystopian and plays into the technology I believe the Antichrist will utilize in the end. And didn't this guy just give a series of talks on the Antichrist? I'm sure it's just a coincidence, though. Palantir won't need to kick down your door. It won't need to wiretap you personally. It builds the engine that allows institutions to connect all the dots. And once the dots are connected, profiles emerge, risk scores emerge, targets emerge. And much of it happens behind classification walls, national security contracts, defense partnerships, intelligence sharing agreements. The public does not see the dashboards, the public does not get to see the filters, but the public sees the consequences. The software has already been used in military operations, counter-terror programs, and immigration enforcement. That means it plays a role in battlefield targeting, deportation tracking, surveillance mapping. When a system can analyze entire populations at scale, it stops feeling like a tool and starts feeling like infrastructure. Infrastructure meant for total control. The real fear is not that Palantir invented surveillance. Governments have always wanted more information and control. The fear is that technology finally made it possible to expand and centralize it, to integrate it all, to make it searchable, usable, instant, even predictive. See, when algorithms start flagging people before they act, when data patterns begin to substitute for probable cause, well, you step into pre-suspicion territory. Minority Report, anyone? The logic shifts from what someone did to what the system thinks they might do, but systems are always wielded by someone. Someone could say, take the guns from all the crazy people. But then those in power changes the definition of crazy and everybody loses theirs. The company says it only organizes data provided by clients, but once you build the machine shapes behavior. Institutions begin to rely on it. Decisions lean toward what the system highlights. Data becomes authority, a seeing stone in the hands of power. And freedom-loving conservatives are pushing back against this dystopian tech, right? Try again. To make America great again, we need to prevent it from becoming more like China, right? That's what we should be doing. Oh no, that's not what's happening. You mean Trump is working with Peter Thiel? Yes, my friends. You think it's bad now? Wait till Thiel's protege, J.D. Vance, runs next term. You think you won't fall for it, but evil never announces itself outright. It's always for national security. We'll design it to target illegals, get the people out of here that don't belong. When it's your team using it, it's okay, right? But doesn't this country change teams every few years? Tom chasing Jerry, so it won't always be your guy holding the trigger, pressing the button. Not that it matters, since I'm sadly coming to terms with the reality that left and right are wings on the same bird. And it ain't an eagle, it's a vulture. So, what do you guys think? Did I commit career sewer slide? Gotta be careful with that word, it gets flagged. And by the way, I'm not feeling sewer-slidal. Hopefully not, hopefully I didn't lose you. I know I already have a bunch of listeners that don't agree with me on everything, and you don't have to, and I love you for it. We come from different denominations, backgrounds, political and theological positions, and man, we're able to kick it so far, so hopefully we can still kick it after this, or it might be the first and last episode of Toaster Talk. I guess we'll see. I just had a bunch of stuff to get off my chest. I'm tired, folks. I really am. I'm tired. That last episode was a hard one. The broken campaign promises, the lies, the cover-ups, none of it's new. And I knew that. I talk about cover-ups and corrupt government dealings on this show all the time. Heck, I've even said you either know history or you trust the government. I really thought things would be different, though. I was deceived, and not too many people are willing to admit that they were duped. I'm sorry that sounded like a humble brag. I didn't mean for it to, but I was. Now maybe you're thinking, no, Nelly, no, don't take the black pill, no! I did kinda. I'd like to think I followed it up with the white pill. The pill that says I'm gonna wait until my Savior returns in radiant white with his robe dipped in the blood of his enemies. And that bloodbath will have plenty of elephants and donkeys in it, to be sure. To my Calvary Chapel people listening, if you made it this far, some immediately will shut down with any criticism of our greatest ally. Look, I assure you I love the Jewish people, even though the majority of them hate you and I. And no, I'm not just talking about the files, though they were quite enlightening in that regard as well. But read the Talmud. That's going to get its own episode for sure. I don't know when, but it's coming. Modern rabbinic Judaism is a nightmare. I can't call out Islam and not call out the abhorrent things in the Talmud that sound like Muhammad wrote them and not some rabbi. Remember that Israel is neither an ally nor an enemy. They are a mission field, Christian. After they rejected and murdered Jesus, according to Romans 11, God instituted a temporary, partial hardening of Israel. During this time, the gospel is to go out to all the world, to all the Gentiles, or Goyim. Call it a judicial hardening or spiritual blindness. It will last until the fullness of the Gentiles is saved. Remember that they will be deceived. They will think Antichrist is the Messiah. They reject the real one. They will follow the false one, and he will betray them. I know not everyone shares my eschatological views, but what's interesting is many of them are looking for a Messiah. And he's not going to be like the real one. I do believe that ethnic Israel will have many come to Christ at some point in the not-so-distant future. I will no doubt be labeled as an anti-Semitic, even by some of my brothers and sisters. Just know that word is already being used not simply as a means of silencing all criticism. They're trying to use it to stop people from teaching parts of the New Testament. Lines in the New Testament, especially referring to Jews in the context of Jesus' trial and death, could meet the definition of anti-Semitism used in the Anti-Semitism Awareness Act, H.R. 6090. In Europe, they're suggesting that publishers add warnings to religious texts, yes, including the New Testament, about passages that have been historically used to justify anti-Semitism. First is the warning, then will come the bans, folks. This is why so many have been so adamant to push those ridiculous hate speech laws. The gospel says there is one God and there is only one way to get right with this one God and go to one heaven, and his name is Jesus. It's only a matter of time before this is labeled as hate speech. You say a conservative president would never do that. They do it with anti-Semitism language. If I say a Hindu will go to hell without Jesus, oh, I'm so intolerant, the world says. If I say a Muslim will go to hell without Jesus, what made-up word will they call me? Oh, well, that's so Islamophobic. What about if I say to a Jew that they will go to hell without Jesus? What do you think that will be called if the AIPAC check is big enough? Anti-something for sure. Again, I love Jews. I don't think God is done with all of them, at least not yet, not because of who they are, but because of who he is. I could be wrong, but I will pray for them. I will pray for their salvation, that they will look upon the one whom they pierced and see that though they killed him, he didn't stay dead. Again, my Calvary peeps, read Peter's first sermon in Acts on the day of Pentecost. I'm actually going to turn there and read it. I think that's a good place to wind this down, actually. Let's go to Acts 2. Starting in verse 22. Again, this is Peter preaching, and he'll tell you who he's preaching to. Men of Israel, hear these words. Jesus of Nazareth, a man attested to you by God with mighty works and wonders and signs that God did through him in your midst, as you yourselves know. This Jesus, delivered up according to the definite plan and foreknowledge of God, you crucified and killed by the hands of lawless men. God raised him up, loosing the pangs of death, because it was not possible for him to be held by it. For David says concerning him, I saw the Lord always before me, for he is at my right hand, that I may not be shaken. Therefore my heart was glad, and my tongue rejoiced. My flesh also will dwell in hope. For you will not abandon my soul to Hades, or let your Holy One see corruption. You have made known to me the paths of life. You will make me full of gladness with your presence. Verse 29, Brothers, I may say to you with confidence about the patriarch David that he both died and was buried, and his tomb is with us to this day. Being therefore a prophet, and knowing that God had sworn with an oath to him that he would set one of his descendants on his throne, he foresaw and spoke about the resurrection of Christ, that he was not abandoned to Hades, nor did his flesh see corruption. This Jesus God raised up, and of that we are all witnesses, being therefore exalted at the right hand of God, and having received from the Father the promise of the Holy Spirit, he has poured out this, that you yourselves are seeing and hearing. For David did not ascend into the heavens, but he himself says, the Lord said to my Lord, sit at my right hand until I make your enemies your footstool. Verse 36, let all the house of Israel therefore know for certain that God has made him both Lord and Christ, this Jesus whom you crucified. Now when they heard this, they were cut to the heart, and said to Peter and the rest of the apostles, brothers, what shall we do? And Peter said to them, repent and be baptized, every one of you, in the name of Jesus Christ, for the forgiveness of your sins, and you will receive the gift of the Holy Spirit. My friends, Jews need Jesus. They need the gospel. They don't need more missiles, nor do they need any more of my tax money to carry out espionage or to give their people free health care while we're sick and starving. The $3.8 billion a year, which I told you equaled $10 million a day, that started back in 2019, but it goes back way further than that. From the 90s to the early 2000s, annual aid was going over there around $3 billion a year back then. 2007, under Bush, aid went up to $3.1 billion per year for 10 years. 2016, under Obama, it was increased to $3.8 billion, what it is now, and it will be that, and it's from 2019 to 2028, when I'm sure we'll renegotiate, and by that I mean just increase how much we're giving. If you include recent emergency appropriations passed after October 7th, the total likely is around $120 billion since 1990. $120 billion. I fear we may not be fully grasping that. Numbers like 120 billion float above the human mind, at least mine. We're built to count sheep, not galaxies. Think about it this way. If I spent $1 million every single day, it would take you about 329 years to reach $120 billion. Again, if you spent $1 million every single day, it would take you 329 years to reach $120 billion. That's longer than the United States has even existed. What about the housing crisis we're going through right now? People can't buy homes, especially young people, and you can only call them lazy for so long before you actually start listening to them. When there's no jobs, when all their jobs are being given to AI, they're not all lazy, and they're not all these young people don't want to work. No, there's no jobs for them because they keep getting exported. Well, Trump brought some back, not enough, and he hasn't limited AI enough. How many countless thousands of jobs have been lost there? But I digress. Homes. The median home price in the U.S. is roughly $400,000. $120 billion could buy about 300,000 homes at that price. That's enough houses for a city larger than St. Louis. If you only lived 33 years, it would take you spending $10 million a day to hit $120 billion. I just picked 33 years because of how old Jesus was. Hell, if you stacked 120 billion $1 bills, you'd freaking reach outer space. I'm not even kidding. $120 billion in ones would be about 8,000 miles high, folks. The apologists, people like I used to be, argue, but they have to spend most of it on American defense equipment. You're right, and we wonder why fighting always seems to be breaking out over there. And then you can say, well, but Islam sucks. Muslims want to kill Jews. You're right on both accounts. Islam does suck. Muslims do want to kill Jews because Muhammad told them to. So maybe we should not have screwed around in Iran and let psychotic Muslims take over and then hold a gun to everyone's head. But war keeps the wheels of money turning in both countries, in all parties, and war never changes. I think I have lit enough fuses. I've ticked enough people off today. I think I'm done with this episode, folks. Not with you. I'm not done with the show, but I'm done with making excuses. I'm done with covering the sky with my hand. At the end of the day, this episode was not me trying to win any arguments or recruit you into a new tribe or a new party or hand a new set of talking points to post like trading cards. This was me naming the things we all feel but rarely say out loud. The noise is not just loud, it's strategic. It's a machine built to keep you reactive, keep you outraged, terrified, addicted, and above all, exhausted, because when you're exhausted, you're easy to control. You're easy to steer, to sell to manipulate, easy to keep in a permanent state of breaking news while your actual life, your actual calling, your actual soul quietly starves in the corner. So here's what I am choosing, and maybe it helps you choose too. I'm choosing to step out of the theater, not out of reality, not out of truth, not out of moral clarity. I'm stepping out of the performance. I'm done outsourcing my conscience to teams, talking heads, political parties, and denominations. I'm done letting algorithms discipline me or disciple me. I'm done letting the world decide what I am allowed to notice and what I'm allowed to question. I'm going to expose darkness, but I'm going to do it with honesty, without selective outrage, and without pretending that my side is automatically righteous because it says the right buzzwords. And most importantly, I'm choosing to narrow my focus back to what God actually put in my hands. My marriage, my church, my show, this show. Prayer that is not performative, obedience that is not trendy, and hopefully courage that does not need applause. If the world is going to keep screaming, let it scream. I'm going to build my life on a voice that does not change with the news cycle. So wherever you land on any of the specifics we talked about today, please hear me on this. Do not let the noise make you cruel. Do not let it make you hopeless. Don't let it turn you into a person who can only think in slogans and in enemies. I have fallen into this too many times. I am embarrassed and I am sorry. Ask real questions, folks. Refuse to be manipulated. Love what is true. Hate what is evil. Hold fast to Jesus. And remember, you are not called to carry the whole world on your back. You are called to be faithful in the part of it that God called you to, that He's placed in front of you. You're called to not carry the world, but carry your cross. Don't put it down to carry somebody else's cause. I love you guys. I mean that. Thanks for letting me vent today. I don't know how long this episode was. I guess I'll find out when I'm editing it down and maybe adding a little bit of music. Not a whole lot of storytelling this time around, just me throwing some information at you from my head, from my heart, messy as it is. Thanks again for letting me vent. Thanks for sticking with me, and thanks for being the kind of community that can disagree and hopefully still break bread. This has been the first and hopefully not the last episode of Toaster Talk. Next week, we will continue with our regularly scheduled programming, but if you like this episode and you want to hear more like this one, let me know. It might be something we do a little more often. Until next time, keep your eyes open, keep your heart clean, keep your feet planted. Again, sometimes the only sane response in a world going crazy is to dance. I hope you enjoyed this week's unique episode. If you did, let me know about it. Leave a comment, leave a review. Please share the episode. Tell somebody about it. It's the only way people are going to find out about the show. And if you do, don't forget to tag me. Enter to win some merch. This is the last week to do that, by the way. If you want to help me continue to do what I do, join the Toasties on Patreon. Help me keep the lights on. And who knows, I may need an Iron Dome after this episode. Links for everything, as always, are in the show notes. I want to thank you for listening today. Thank you for listening to The Dancing Toaster. Wherever you're listening, like, share, subscribe, comment, leave a review, follow, do all the things wherever you consume The Dancing Toaster. But whatever you do, don't consume toasters. And don't let the noise consume you. I love you. I'm out.
Government officials insist that this an isolated incident. Okay? Well, perhaps